Financial news. Now, the deep state, the corrupt politicians, the private West Central Bank, the World Economic Forum, it seems they're moving directly where we all thought they were going to go. We could see out in Canada, they did the first rate cut. Then Europe said, okay, we're going to do a rate cut. Now Canada is saying we're going to do a second rate cut, which means Europe is on deck to do another rate cut. Even though they held steady right now, I do believe it is already baked in, and probably in the next month or so, they're going to cut their rates. Now, when we start to look at what's really going on here, they're prepping the stage for what? The Federal Reserve to cut their rates in September. It looks like this is already baked in, and this is where we're going to have the problem, because we've seen in the past, when we looked at the past times the Fed dropped the rates, actually really what they did was they tipped the economy over. When the economy was completely and utterly falling apart, that's when they dropped the rates, and that's when the economy crashed. So when you start to look back in time and you start to look at this history of what they've done here, you could see that this is exactly what they're going to do now. Now, of course, they're building the momentum. They're building the idea that this is working out perfectly because, look, Canada did it. They did it twice already. Look, Europe's going to do it. They already did it once. They're probably going to do it twice. And then all of a sudden, the Fed's going to come out and say, now it is our time to do this. And I do believe Trump and the Patriots, they already know what's going to happen. Remember when Trump was out there saying, listen, don't cut the rates. You shouldn't do it. Don't listen to the Biden administration. Don't do this. If you don't do this, we might keep you on payroll for a little bit longer, Powell. So you know something? You better think hard about what you're about to do. Now, I do believe Trump is probably using reverse psychology on the Federal Reserve, on the Biden administration, where they actually want them to cut the rates because once again, what happens when they cut the rates? It's all going to fall apart. And on whose watch? It's going to be on the watch of the Fed. It's going to be on the watch of the Biden administration. And they are going to be blamed for the entire economic system utterly falling apart. Now, think about how they're going to do this. They're going to be putting out the information that the economy is doing great. Now, again, we know that Kamala right now, she is trying to be the nominee. She's not the nominee yet. Yes, she has a lot of delegates, but she's not the nominee. We know that they have a virtual roll call coming up on August 1st. But again, the resident, which is Biden, he's supposedly still the resident of this country. So I do believe Kamala, plus the resident, plus Obama in the background, they're all going to be telling the people of this country and the world that the economy is fantastic. Look at this. And yes, they're going to be propping up the idea that a rate cut is fantastic. The Fed is going to cut the rate. It's going to prove that the economy is perfect. We've done it. The economy now is the best we've ever seen. And yes, they're going to be putting that narrative out there. They're going to be convincing the people of this. And in the end, what's going to happen after everyone listens to this, and of course, the economy is not going to fall apart the next day, the people are going to go, holy crap, look at this. It's all fixed. We knew they could do it. Obama's a hero. Kamala's a hero. The resident's a hero. They're all going to be clapping and applauding them, and everyone will be like, wow, this is incredible, until everything starts to fall apart. And that's when they're going to be in trouble. And I do believe people are going to start to realize that they have been lied to, just like they've been lied to from the very, very beginning. They've been lied to about the entire economic system. Remember, they're also cutting the rates under the assumption that all these numbers are real. But we all know that they're manipulated, and they're going to make a decision on manipulated data. It doesn't end well when you do that. And I think we're going to see the entire system completely and utterly fall apart when they do this. Now, the other thing that's very interesting is we could see that Trump, he is pushing the entire strategy of no taxes on tips, no federal income tax, and of course, the people are going to be like, you know something, this is something that we like. And it looks like his strategy is actually working. The people now are starting to realize, you know something, he is trying to do things that can help us. He's trying to do things that will assist the people. It's completely different than what Biden was doing. Remember, Biden was out there saying, I'm going to cancel your student loans. Well, who's going to pay for the loan? It's not just canceled. It's very, very different when you say you don't have to pay tax on tips or federal income tax. Because again, that is not canceling something. That's actually, maybe it is canceling. It's canceling the central bank, actually. That's really what it's doing. But again, it's not like someone took out a loan and you're canceling it. So he's telling everyone, listen, we need to get rid of tax on tips, federal income tax. We need to get rid of all of that. So this way you have more money in your pocket, compared to Biden, where people have taken out student loans. Someone's on the hook for it. Somebody wants this paid back. Someone's got to do it, because you think the banks, they're just going to say, hey, you know what? All right, canceling it. All right, you know what? We don't need it anymore. No, somebody's got to pay it back. It's very, very different. And I do believe the people are starting to realize this and understand this. They're also understanding that the entire economic system, every single day, the internals, they are falling apart. And when you look at manufacturing, it has taken a deep dive. Cobicia Letter on X put this out and said, the Richmond Fed Manufacturing Index dropped to negative 17 points in July, the lowest since the 2020 pandemic. The drop has been primarily driven by new order volume and shipments slowing to negative 23 points and negative 21 respectively. Aside from the pandemic, this was the worst reading since the 2008 financial crisis. Meanwhile, the nationwide manufacturing sector has experienced its second longest downturn on record, contracting in 19 of the last 20 months. Is the manufacturing industry signaling a recession? I do believe they are. And think about it. It's worse than 2008. It looks like we're mirroring 2008. And we know what happened back then. We had the Republicans, they were running McCain. Republicans were in charge. Obama was part of the Democratic Party. McCain was telling everyone that the economy's doing well. The Republican Party backed him up. Obama, well, they used the economy against them, and it just so happened in October, actually the market came down in October. The economy was always crashing, and everyone looked at the situation and said, okay, Obama knew what was he talking about, and McCain did not. And that's how Obama won. And if you fast forward to today, what's happening? Well, the Democrats are in power. We have Biden, actually Obama, in the basement. Now he has Puppet Kamala, and we can just call them Obamala. They are now convincing everyone that the economy's fine. They are now stuck in this economic system that they have created. Trump, on the other side, is telling everyone the economy's not doing well. And this is why, going back in time, he said, I see a recession coming, actually a lot worse than the recession. R is the nice word for it. I see something worse headed our way. So this time around, it looks like Trump has all the leverage and Obama, they do not. And this is going to work against them. And I do believe this is why Trump was out there pushing the narrative. Hey, don't cut the rates. Don't do it, please. And you know what these people do? They always do the opposite. They're going to cut their rates. And we can see the Bank of Canada, they have cut their rate for the second consecutive month, and they're saying that it looks pretty darn good. Now, the EU, before this, they went ahead and they just held rates steady, which means they just got the signal to cut their rates, which is going to lead back to the Federal Reserve. They are eventually going to cut their rates, and that's when everything's really going to start to fall apart. And I do believe if they cut the rates at the end of August, beginning of September, by October, we'll start to see things really start to fall apart. And I do believe as we're leading up to October, we're going to see the internals accelerate where things are really going to implode on themselves, especially when the market comes down. You know what companies do. Holy crap, the market came down. We're in a recession. We got to do some layoffs here. We got to let people go. It's going to be a complete and utter disaster. And the people are going to look at Obama and say, what just happened here? You just told us everything was fine. The resident, who doesn't really know what's going on, he said everything was okay. And the Fed, they told us this is the perfect time for the rate cut. Why is everything falling apart? Who's to blame for this? Of course, they're going to blame Trump, but he's not in office. He's not controlling any of this. So they are going to be responsible for what is happening. And we could see that Trump, I do believe he's prepping for all of this. He has already things in place, and it looks like we can move very easily to Bitcoin. We can move very easily back to sound money, go back to the Constitution. And it's becoming very, very clear that we have one side, which is the central bankers, Obama, Biden, and the rest. They want nothing to do with Bitcoin. They will always tell you criminals use it, it's volatile. And again, we just had Mt. Gox just dump a lot of it. We had Germany dump a lot of it. Now, of course, they can't bring it down to zero. because they would need a lot of it to really bring it down to zero. But what they could do is they could make you think it's volatile. Oh, look, it was at 72, it dropped to 55, it's going back up to 67. Look how volatile this is. But of course, they're the ones who are causing this, just like the gold market. They can throw paper contracts at gold, and they can make it move down, move up. They can make it look like, hey, this is something I don't want to get into. Of course, where do they want you to go? They want you to go into stocks, because they love it when people go into stocks. Because when everything falls apart, what do people do? They sell like crazy. And you know what they do? They buy like crazy with funny money, which is the fiat currency. But we could see that Kamala, she has decided not to speak at the 2024 Bitcoin conference. So that is very, very interesting. Trump is going to speak at the conference, and she is not. I don't know what Biden is doing, but we'll have to see how this all plays out. But again, you know that they are not all for Bitcoin. They don't like alternative currencies. They are controlled by the central bank, and they definitely do not want alternative currencies. Now, once again, like we said in the very, very beginning, Trump's strategy is definitely working. He's been giving out solutions. He's telling people that the Green New scam is not going to work for the people. The people are seeing this. The people are no longer purchasing EVs the way they did in the very, very beginning. It's now starting to slide off. A lot of companies are in trouble. The subsidies aren't even helping. People are starting to see that windmills and solar panels, they are not going to work. Actually, a lot of those companies are also in trouble. Remember, the only way to push this, because there is no demand, is to actually have the government pay and subsidize every single one of these companies. And what's happening is these companies are completely and utterly falling apart. And when you look at Obamacare, it's pretty much the same exact thing. The government had to subsidize all of this. And what happened? Well, the exchanges started to go bankrupt because, again, there was no demand. The people weren't saying, God, you know what? I really want that health insurance. I want to pay a lot of money. And this looks really great. Same thing with solar panels, windmills, EVs. The people weren't out there going, you know something? I love it. I want an electric vehicle. That's the only car I want. I want my house powered by wind. If there's no wind, what are we going to do? No, the people, they weren't demanding any of this. And this is why the government has to help them. But when you look at Trump's solutions, drill, baby, drill, baby, drill, he's going to make the country energy independent. When he's talking about tariffs, he's going to bring money back into this country. And the corporations and manufacturers that moved out of this country, that's going to be an incentive to come back to this country. And I do believe Trump's going to remove a lot of regulations, and it's going to basically entice manufacturers and companies to come back to this country. And I do believe he'll probably give them even other benefits to come back here. So we're going to see a resurgence of companies and manufacturers flock back to the United States in the end, especially when we start to remove income tax and taxes on tips. Because do you think we will find a lot of workers to go to work? Because if you have a lot more money in your pocket and you're making a lot more money, I do believe people, well, they're going to start to work like we've never seen before, especially if you get rid of the private central bank system. If you get rid of that, the money's going to be worth even more. But since Trump said no tax on tips, it looks like the Culinary Union decided to endorse Trump. And they have like 60,000 people or something like that. And now they just endorsed Trump. And think about it. Previously, you know who they endorsed? Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama. Now they're endorsing Trump. So his strategy is working. And I do believe as we move forward, everything that he's putting into place is going to show the people that he is doing this for the people. And he's not making other people pay for other people. So I do believe as we move forward, you're going to see a lot more of the working class latch on to Trump, especially when the economy completely and utterly falls apart. He will have the people on his side, and he will give solutions of how we can get out of this. And I already think he's been prepping for this for a very long time, and he's putting everything into place because, once again, we can turn this economy around very, very quickly. I don't mean it's going to be in a week or two after he's elected or even when he's inaugurated. I do believe he's going to put everything into place. And yes, month after month after month, we will see improvements until maybe a year later where we'll see like, wow, this economy is completely different from when he took office. And people, they will understand, okay, he did it for the people. Everyone else was doing it for themselves. And I do believe that people are going to see a completely and utterly different economy. And as we move forward, it's just going to get better and better. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks.